Good afternoon or good evening. The time is 6:01. We have enough to make a quorum. We're going to go ahead and start this meeting. At this time, we're going to do the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'll go ahead and do the invocation. Jesus Christ, thank you for everything you've done for this community, for the opportunities you've given everybody in this room to make decisions over the past couple of years or through our term to help the city grow. Thank you for the great weather that we had during the Easter holiday. Very blessed, and the children were blessed at the park. And please bless each and every one of us today as we make decisions to help the community, that our decisions are in the best interest of the city of Los Fresnos. And I also want to bless every single resident in this town going through any financial difficulty or any spiritual difficulty, that they find the light and that they're able to make decisions that can positively impact their lives. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Jackie, do you have any visitors' remarks at this time? Thank you. At this time, we're going to go ahead and look at the consent agenda items. There's a total of, looks like there's quite a few. There's a total of 16 of them. I'd like to pull 16. Is there any consent agenda item that anybody here would like to pull? Okay, we're going to do 16 and 8. Commissioner Munoz. So we have 16 and 8, and at this time, if any of the commissioners have one that they'd like to pull, this is the time. At this time, we have 16 and 8 pulled aside. If there's a motion to be made on everything outside of 16 and 8. I'm sorry, can you go ahead and speak into the microphone, please?
I make a motion to accept 1 through 16, outing 8 and 16.
Okay, motion has been made. Motion has been seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. This time we're going to go back to number 8, consideration and action to approve an action of the Los Fresnos Community Development Corporation to provide funds to the Los Fresnos Little League Baseball and Softball Program. Commissioner?
Mark, the only saying that I have on item number 8 is that I just want to make it clear that just because we have helping out Los Fresnos community development for the baseball league and all that stuff, it doesn't mean that nobody else can use that park. I was confronted with some people that wanted to use the park and said, no, it only belongs to the Little League. So I just want to make that clear, whether if it is or if it ain't.
Yes and no. During their season, we don't allow anybody else because it's just too much for the fields. After the season, we do allow and have allowed people to come check with us and use it accordingly. We don't let them practice on it because practice will ruin them. But people want to do a benefit game or you've got some family over and you want to play a softball game, you're welcome to.
Yeah, that's what I was meant to say, that they're not going to go in there when they're playing ball or when there's tournament and stuff like that, but whenever it's not being used, so they can use it.
With the exception, we don't allow teams to practice because there's so many of those teams now that play year round. There's not enough time, and then the fields get ruined if they practice every single day. Does that make sense? And so if they're gonna play a game or a pickup game with someone, that's fine. But a daily practice, we don't allow, they're not practice fields.
So you mean like the Little League cannot practice? They cannot go and practice? The Little League games cannot go in there and practice?
Right, they practice like, right now you'll see a bunch of people out here and behind the football stadium and lots in Cuates, lots in different parts of towns. They do not practice on the games, they just hold games there.
Yeah, because sometimes not a whole group, but maybe like group like 4 or 5 want to play there. I don't want to say no, you cannot play there because it's a public park.
Correct, they allow, we allow that. It's just, if you have a team that is competing elsewhere, you can't use that as your practice field because it'll ruin it. Because if everybody in this room had a team, the fields get ruined and they're not in good game conditions. Does that make sense? So where they're practicing now during Little League season, they need to continue to practice throughout the year. And they can hold tournaments at the park. They can get 2 of the teams to play a game there. A church group can come play, a family group can come play. We could decide the city wants to go play a game, we can go play, that's fine. It's just not for a team that's competing and practicing on. Does that make sense?
Mark, I actually have gotten that same concern from residents that they've been wanting to practice. And I remember we talked about it maybe about 2 years ago or something where, there was a lot of money invested in keeping the field, nice and ready for games. One of the things that I've noticed is living here, even as a kid, it was the population could afford that park. But now I think our population is getting a little too big. And I've always had a dream that, doing another park. And, at one time I asked you about some land out there behind where our water area is. But I think there's some issues there that we cannot maybe put some parks back there. But I would like there to be, maybe because of the growing population, like an extra park that people can practice on year round without having to worry about the games. I mean, I think what we're doing is great. I saw the excitement, it was great, but there is people out there that just want to practice and they really don't have anywhere to go other than Laureles.
The Laureles part is part of ours. We're using that. So while it's not in the city limits, it is our park. And so this was talked about last time. We've got 5 fields. And, when I was a kid, there was 2. There's 5 now. So them not having enough fields is not the problem. For practice, yes. But any city does not allow teams to practice on their fields because it would ruin the fields if there's continued practice and there's 10 teams and someone practicing on them every day. The season from March to June and into July for All-Stars really hits those fields hard. So they have to have a time for rejuvenation of the grass and get it back in shape because there's games every single day and multiple games every day, and it just wears it out. It'd be like your yard. If you had people on it every single day, you wouldn't have a grass. And so that's why to just bring my team in practice, no city has those facilities available. You use lots, you use the rodeo grounds. There's 35 acres out there people can use. So not having a place is not a problem.
I
Unless
get you.
they don't want to use.
But I have heard that from several residents, and some of them are concerned about that. Understood, we do have 5.
We spent about $300,000 on those fields 3 years ago, getting them back in shape. If we allowed everybody to use it and practice every single day, 12 months out of the year, we would have to spend that every year. And
that's not
doesn't make
feasible.
good fiscal responsibility for us to do that.
Yeah, hey, Mark, I'll make a comment here. I know when I was growing up, I used that field a few times, but it was mainly to practice like an amount, be able to pitch to my dad or to my friend, get some ground balls as shortstop. And that's what I think Commissioner Munoz is referring to when somebody goes out there and actually wants to practice one-on-one or bring two kids out there and practice with them catching fly balls, that's still allowed. I understand the practicing of the full team out there, they're gonna ruin the field. I'm with you 100%. It's whenever one or two kids wanna get out there and throw the ball or hit the ball to each other where they're running into issues where they're being told you're not allowed to be in the field. And I think that should still be allowed, or it should be allowed, that's why we're bringing it up, because I know when I was growing up here in town, man, I used that field on the weekends and the evenings whenever there was no games.
We can sure address that, and I'll do whatever your wishes are, but you got to understand, and I ask you to look at other cities, what they're doing. They do not allow that. They can't allow that because it'll ruin the fields. But if you wish to do that, we can change that policy, but there's just thousands of dollars that go into those fields, and to use them just for that is not prudent. But it's your wishes.
And I understand.
This isn't the
Maybe
agenda
like some
item
empty,
here.
yeah, some empty land
So-
that that just designated to go out and.
The other
Yeah.
problem with that, and they've had problems this past year where we did allow some people to use it, is they hit ground balls. And so they hit ground balls to 15 kids that are on the team, and they hit a ground ball in the same place. Well, guess what happens? All of the grass in that one place is gone. And then another team comes the next day and they see that piece worn out. And so they move to another. And so that team hits and practices pitching or whatever and hits, and everybody hits to shortstop or everybody hits to first base. And then that place is all worn out. And then before you know it, in about 2 weeks, you don't have grass anywhere. Does that make sense? That's what the problem is. And
Yeah, and I think I understand what you're saying, and of course, we don't want to take on extra financial burden for that, but there's got to be a place where we can meet in the middle. And maybe we don't have the answer right now, but something we can eventually come up with where we can meet in the middle, understanding cost, but at the same time, like you said, if a dad and a son just want to throw some pitches and hit a ball, they can't do it at that park. They would have to go somewhere else, like you said, here to the rodeo grounds. But just something we can meet in the middle. Right now, it doesn't look like we have an answer for that, but perhaps we can come up with some ideas.
I agree with that. I agree with that. Yeah.
Maybe it's something we can all think about and kind of toss around. I mean, we don't want to spend money we don't have to, but at the same time, we do want to compromise with those individuals that want to do something like that. Agreed?
I agree.
All right, so that's something we can always discuss at this time. Any other questions about number 8? If not, if there's a motion?
I make a motion that we approve item number 8 with the agreement that we'll come back and see what we can do to meet us halfway.
Okay, so he's made a motion. Commissioner Munoz?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Yeah. Commissioner Macias has made the second motion. With that said, all those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to 16, Mark, consideration and action to approve a resolution of the City of Los Fresnos, Texas, supporting the artificial drainage system legislation filed by State Representative Janie Lopez and State Senator Morgan Lamantia, proposing changes to the Flood Infrastructure Fund program and establishing a task force to study the funding challenges that communities with artificial drainage systems face. My question is, Mark, do we have artificial drainage systems in our area that would benefit from this?
yes, sir, the whole valley does. Anything that's got a pipe or a ditch is artificial.
Okay, so thank you for that. Just, my only question was that, my comment was, I like the fact that you got 2 local representatives who just won their recent elections coming together and supporting this bill. And I just want to say it's a breath of fresh air to be able to see 2 different political sides coming together and agreeing on the community and possibly something that can help out. So I just wanted to make that comment, and thank you for my question. And with
They
that said, I have no more questions or
They
comments.
testified on this bill this morning in Austin.
Did they? Yeah, no, I'm very happy. When I saw Janie and I saw Morgan, they're two different political sides, but at the end of the day, we all come together for a community, and I think that's what it's all about. I'm done with questions. If anybody else has any questions or comments.
I have the same answer also, I'm very happy that we're working together, and sometimes people get elected and they forget about us, and this is a great deal, great deal.
Okay, is there a motion to be made?
I'll go ahead and motion to approve that, Mayor.
Great, motion has been made by Commissioner Macias.
I seconded that
A
motion.
motion has been seconded by Commissioner Munoz. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 1, consideration and action to allow Redfish Recycling to contract with residents for recycling services. At this moment, we do have a Redfish representative, but Mark, do you want anything you want to add before the gentleman comes up?
No, it's just, this is one of the things that comes up regularly. And we looked at it with our current garbage or waste services that provide service. It would be too expensive. They would only do it if they did all of them. Redfish is wanting to at least let people subscribe to it, and so that's, they're here to talk about that.
This is a good thing. The only thing that I see that the cost is kind of high, because all the residents are already paying for water, for sewer and all that. And also, I have a comment on this. Mark, have you talked to the company that we have the pickup trucks with? That they do that? For example, one day out of the week, they can come and do recycling. I was over there in South Padre Island, and South Padre Island does it once a week on every Saturday. And they have 2 employees from the company and 1 from the city. That's once a week, like every Saturday.
Yeah, they whenever they first got the contract with us, they offered that and did it. It didn't work well. And so it was very expensive to provide that service. It's not free. So we asked them to take that from our contract. And then that's when we got a grant to get the trailers that we now have and did it ourselves. And it's much less expensive. So it's just a difference of philosophy of whether you pay them to do it or we do it the way we're doing it and paying it, or people get it. A lot of people don't want to take it to the 3 times a week that we have it. So they would rather have a can at their home. So, yeah, South Padre does it different, but they pay for that service.
Yeah, I know.
Mark, and I know this will not take away from our free recycling services that we offer here in the city, right? That will continue to be available. Assuming if a resident wants to opt to go with this $15 cost. I know, like myself, as a working individual, sometimes I miss the dates, and I like the idea of having a bin at my house that I can go in and put what I need to put in there. And I don't mind paying the $15 because I know I can. I know not everybody has that luxury, but for some people it's convenient, it's important. And I like the idea that we can opt in to do it, but we don't have to. It's not a requirement. Is that correct? It's not something that's going to change anything. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And I did post it on social media, and I got a lot of responses. So I do have some questions after this individual speaks about the program a little bit. I want to maybe open it up to a question or two. So welcome. Thanks for being here today. I see you at the podium. Welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. It's good to be here in Los Fresnos. Boy, y'all have a pretty building. Better than Brownsville's. But my name is Rose Timmer, and I run a nonprofit called Healthy Communities of Brownsville. We're a nonprofit that stands on 3 pillars: environment, health, and, oh, I forgot the other one. Environment, health, and education, because everything is about education, right? So we do some outreach, we do some environmental contest, environmental events, the same thing for healthy fairs, work with different hospitals and doctors. We've started several programs in Brownsville as healthy communities. We did 2 pilot programs in the city of Brownsville in 2010 and 2012. And we gave people recycled bins. They were not the big 96-gallon ones, but we had kids from recycling clubs in school that went to the houses, gave them a bin, told them what they could put in it, and then the city picked it up. The city, right, picked it up. Republic picked it up. We had a very good participation rate, and we were able to present to the commission a good rate for recycling at that time. It was like $5.49. But at that time, the city commission did not feel comfortable in putting that cost on to their citizens. So it was voted down. We tried again, and it was voted down again. And it sort of stopped and died, but we kept trying to push recycling. Redfish came along and said, let's see what we can do. And they started out with commercial recycling. I'm sure you see the red or blue bins in people's businesses for cardboard, plastics, those kinds of things. And we pick those up. We service them either once or twice a week. We bring it to our manufacturing, our recycling plant, and we have approximately 16 people that sort that recycling. Nobody has to do that. We employ people to do that. Comes up a big conveyor belt, and they pick out all the plastic bottles. They pick out all this cardboard. They pick out whatever it is they're doing. And then we turn around and sell it as a commodity. So then, last August, we decided to try it in Brownsville for residential people. And that's where we came up with the roll-on bin. 96 gallons, we provide it. We service your curb, as they say, every other week. We try to coincide with your trash. We service it every other week. You don't have to sort it. You don't have to take it anywhere like your residents do. And then we do charge you for it. We charge you $15 a month for doing that. We've got costs involved in doing that. I came to your recycling where you have your big trailer and everything has to be sorted. I know you have a city employee doing that on Saturday. I think it's Thursday night and one other day. Walmart is Thursday night, one other day. And they are there because they drive the truck that pulls the trailer. And that is their involvement in it. As a resident of Los Fresnos, you have to drive, put your recyclables in the car, drive to that location, and then you have to take it out and sort it. You wouldn't have to do that with us. I saw when I was there one Saturday, we did 132 people showed up. There was a lady who dragged her garbage can full of water bottles because she drinks water out of a bottle, dragged it from her house and put it there, and then she took every one of those bottles and put it in the right bin. We had parents with diaper bags, diaper boxes, a lot of cardboard. We had a lot of plastic bottles. We had a lot of detergent bottles. So we accept what your city recycles now. And you also take a lot of recycling from different cities. I know there was an area called, Morales was one of them. Los Indios or something like that. Indian Lake, yes. And so they all come and bring the recyclables to you when they can. But we are asking that you let us bring curbside recycling to the city. And honestly, I think you could use those 2 people that man that truck. That's all they do is drive the truck and the trailer. They could be doing something else. What you do with those 2 people when they're there on Saturday or at night, you have to accommodate their schedule so that there's no overtime on your part, because that can be an expense. So that would help. You have any questions?
Well, I know a lot of residents had said that
Yes.
they want to keep the free. They want to keep the free services. That's pretty big on some people don't mind doing that, and I respect those that don't mind doing that. It's the ones like I mentioned earlier. If you can, there's a lot of people that do. Now, a lot of questions were asked about what kind of plastics, those type of things. What kind of metals? Is there a little bit more detailed information on what
Sure,
we
we
can and what we
provide,
can't?
when you get a rolling bin from us, there is a placard on the very top, and it tells you what we accept and what we do not accept. Plastic bottles that have the little triangle on the bottom that say 1 and 2, detergent bottles, shampoo bottles, dishwasher bottles, all of that kind of plastic. No, we don't accept swimming pools, kids' swimming pools or things like that. Cans, all kinds of cans, no glass. Glass is very hard, very expensive to recycle.
You talked about the nonprofit organization that you represent. Is any of this going to?
No.
Is this the only type of programs that you have? You don't have like a program, let's say that you would bring, like I was mentioned to Mark, like a trailer, like every Saturday, bring somebody that will come on Saturdays and pick up the recycling items on Saturdays? Or this is the only?
We would have to pay somebody for the Saturday, for the truck, for the gasoline, and the maintenance. And now it's included in that $15 of a household that you pay. That's why we charge what we charge. We've got to pay the guy who drives the truck, and it's a special kind of truck, and we got to pay the people that deliver your cans, the gasoline, the maintenance of the truck. We got to pay the people to sort it. That we do.
Do you service Brownsville, City of Brownsville? Tony?
Yes, the city of Brownsville currently has about 1,000 people signed up for it.
And that's, how long far back did you all start with
August the
Brownsville?
1st. August the
August?
1st, we started promoting it in the city of Brownsville, and it was very well received. It slowed down during Christmas, it slowed down during shower days, those kinds of holidays. It doesn't happen a lot. But a lot of people who sign up because they see our trucks, and we have a QR code on our trucks and our cans that you can register with.
Is there a contract?
There is an agreement that we sign with the person that says we're going to give him a bin, and for that bin, he's going to put it out every other week. And we don't really have a problem breaking that contract, I don't think, but
Is there an extra fee if the bin forgot to be put out and the
No.
truck stops by?
there is, I'll be honest with you, very few people forget, but every once in a while, somebody does, and we tried our best to keep it, to go around and pick it up, because they get full. Yeah.
And do you see any adjustments in the price? Is that a fixed price or is that subject to change?
I'm not the price person. He is. Yeah, it's a fixed price.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. Now, with that said, is there, again, this is just an option for residents, like in Brownsville, it's 1,000 residents signed up for it. If the resident wants to, they can go ahead and call Redfish?
Redfish. We have a website that you can apply in, gets all your information. It lets you know whether we have curbside recycling on your street. And we will, if you give us permission as a commission to open up the area in Los Fresnos. Those people will sign up, give us their credit information so that we can bill them, and then we will deliver a bin to them and start their service. We have very happy customers.
I like the idea. I like the idea personally because I'm big on recycling, and it's just sometimes we don't have the time to go where the park is or where the city has a free service. And again, if it's not changing anything, and it's just maybe those that want to can do it. I don't
Yes,
see
you
that
can
as a problem.
opt into it. You're not making it mandatory. And
Exactly.
adding it on to somebody's bill, utility bill. So you are giving people the option. They have to call us to do it. Now, we would like to be able to go door to door, knock on doors and talk to people and see if they want to sign up. Because they might not have the social media, or I don't know, do you all have a newspaper?
Well, we do. We have a newspaper. We have a local newspaper, but then it'd be nice to have like a community center
Yeah.
event for those that want to stop in and get some information. They can
Right.
stop in and ask some personal questions.
And we will also, I do the outreach and the education. So I have worked with your schools. You had a young lady in your school called Mrs. Castillo, and she was quite the recycler, and she helped me a lot. We did e-waste, we did a lot of different things with her and her students. She was on that, is that a high school? I think the kids were in high
Yes.
school. And she has since retired, but she wants curbside recycling in Los Fresnos. But it really works well when you let the kids know, you let the parents know. You can come to your community service, to your community center, and be there and sign up people if they want to sign up.
Like I said, I like the idea. It gives people another option, and I'm sure there's people that want the service.
You have another question, sir. What is it?
But is this pretty much, once we either agree or disagree, pretty much gonna happen? Or do you have to have like a minimum amount of community members that actually decide to take upon recycling? If you
No.
have a small response in the community, is it gonna hamper it? Is it still gonna be a goal?
No, we have found that once we go into an area, whether it be a neighborhood or a city, once we put out those red bins, lots of people call us and it becomes a thing to do. Your neighbors want it. We were invited to go to Palm Valley because they had a recycle problem in there. And they have, that's what's happened with them. They put it on their website, newspaper, newsletter that they had, and we're getting a very good response from them. So it's something that is coming. You all use the landfill from Brownsville, which someday is going to become not available because everybody throws trash in it. So recycling is an important part of doing that.
I don't see a problem with, I'm not sure, we didn't do, we don't, yeah.
If I might add something, 'cause I moved out.
Yeah, you can come up. I know normally we have visitors' remarks, but you can come up.
I moved down here from Minnesota, and they have a very huge recycling program up there. Now I've experienced it from all three sizes. When I was a kid in the '90s, we had just little blue bins that you would have to pre-sort all your recycling, set it out there on the curb, truck would come. Then I joined the Navy. I had to sit there and do all separation, and then I also had to process all the recycling. And then once I left active duty, I came back and we had the single sort bins. And it is so easy with the single sort bins to do that. And now like my daughter, she goes to LFE and she's part of the recycling club and she wants to know where she can recycle at. We live in Paseo Point Apartments. We have no option for recycling unless we go to Walmart, and I always forget that it's there.
Yeah.
So that's just my 2 cents worth.
Yeah, no, and I've been hearing that kind of response online from a lot of individuals. So I think that it's a good option for people to choose from. And I think, it's kind of like you're allowing to solicit to do this in our town. And like I said, those that want it can do it, and those that don't have to. They can continue with what the city offers. And I think that's a great thing. I think we're, any council,
Any
any
other
other questions or comments from any of the council?
I also like the idea, it's just, unless later down the line we find something else that's better, but for now, I think that it's a great idea for
It's
the
doable.
people. Whoever, it's not that you need to have it, no, it's whether you want it, the service is there. So, the only thing that I was reading on it is the $15, but
Yeah.
something that's,
It is a cost.
some people don't have that, like Mr. Flores said, he has the ability to pay the $15, but not everybody has. But it's something that is not for everybody either, so.
Right, right.
And I'll sign up once we get it. I think that's a great service, so.
Okay. We will. What's
Mr.
your-
Munoz, so it sounded like, do you want to make a
Each one of
motion?
you has to sign up.
You want to make a motion?
make a motion that we approve the consideration and action to the refuse recycling as it's written now at this point.
Okay, motion has been made by Commissioner Munoz,
Go ahead and second that, Mayor. I think
and
it's a
motion
good
has
thing
been
for the
seconded
community.
by Commissioner. So at this time, Commissioner Macias, at this time, we'll go ahead and take a vote. For all those in favor, signify by raising your hand and saying aye. Aye, and all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Welcome aboard. Yeah, and I'll take one right before we,
Sign up. I expect to see.
yes, ma'am. I don't know about tomorrow, I gotta go to work, but you'll see my name there soon. So we'll go ahead and move on since we got a lengthy agenda. At this time, we'll have consideration and action to approve change order number 7 for the waste treatment plant expansion program. Thank you, folks. Have a good evening. At this point, Mark, is there any questions or comments in regards to action item number 2? Or anything you would like to add before we discuss?
None besides written unless there's questions.
Any questions from the board? Anybody would like to answer anything? If not, if there's a motion. to
Mark,
be
the
made.
only question I have on that, and just for the sake of asking, how long have those filters been in existence, the ones that they're replacing? Do you have any idea?
Probably 4 years.
Is that pretty much a lifetime, or?
Yeah, because we're adding 2 new ones in there, and because the construction of the plant for the additional capacity, because all the testing, we've lost some of the media in there. It's like sand and carbon. It's kind of like a aquarium filter is basically what it is. So you lose some of that, and we want to start fresh with all of it, all 7 filters, brand new. We can monitor it better that way and track it for further maintenance years down the line, because we'll all have a good starting point for all of it.
Is any of this in regards to that, those machines that were having that issue with the TEQ or anything like that? Or no, this has nothing to do with that?
No,
Okay.
that's sewer plant.
That's sewer, okay.
And again, the only question that I had was the one that I requested a while ago, since it's not part of this, but you said it's not, so I agree with that, so.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board in regards to action item number 2?
Mayor, make a motion to approve action item number 2 as stated, change order number 7 for the water treatment plant extension project.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Commissioner Macias,
I make a second.
and motion has been seconded by Commissioner Munoz. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose, do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 3, consideration and action to approve the Los Fresnos Community Development Corporation approval to fund a sponsorship with RGV Partnership.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you all asked me to look at this a few months ago when some of the legislative folks were down here, that we should be a part of this. The CDC also did and approved to be on the bronze level. Just enough to be getting the information, but not the big numbers like the big cities do on that. So we can change it in future years if we decide we want to up it, but right now, that minimum of 1,000 that the CDC is going to be part of their funding.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board? If not, if there's a motion to be made, this is the time.
I'll go ahead and motion to approve that item, Mayor.
Thank you. Motion has been made by Commissioner Macias
I'll second.
and seconded by Commissioner Vinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye and raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Action item number 4, consideration and action to advise for bids for the Veterans Memorial Project. At this time, Mark, if there's any words you'd like to say?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that the Veterans Memorial Project that'll be on the corner front here, that's been talked about since before this building was built. We have the plans, and I showed them to you, I think, 2 meetings ago, and got approval. So we're ready to go out for bid. The estimate is $379,716. I think it'll be cheaper than that. It doesn't commit you to accepting those bids, but we go out for bids and see if it's something that we can afford, either in combination with CDC and city or one or the other, or if it's just too much, well, then we make that decision then. But this is just
Just to get the ball rolling and get some bids.
let us advertise and see what that real number is.
So as a son of a veteran, I find this to be a very great thing for the community. We have a lot of folks just like myself who have family that was involved in helping our country. And so I think a Veterans Memorial is much needed in our town. I think it gives the town a great image as we're driving down the highway and people look and see the memorial right next to City Hall. I think that would be something good. But again, at this time, we're just going out for pricing. We're not making any final decisions.
So, on this, I agree with this. The only thing is that, do we make a bids for any type, the ones that we were shown? Remember what you showed us, like, to the pictures? We like this one or we like that one? Which one are we gonna go with?
Y'all approved that last,
The one
One that-
without the screen, right? The one that didn't have the screen on it, yeah.
yeah,
That one. I make a motion that we approve the action to advertisement the bids for the Veterans Memorial Park.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Munoz
I'll second.
and seconded by Commissioner Vincent. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Action item number 5, consideration and action to approve an updated purchasing policy.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on page 58, you'll see, beginning our current policy, 58, 59, 60, 61. That was our current purchasing policy. If you'll remember, the auditor mentioned that they wanted more details on certain areas, specifically credit card use and how that's handled. And so we've looked at best practices and looked at other cities, and starting on 62, you can see how we've changed it. It's very specific on 62 with the way the purchasing authority is, our procedures, and then competitive bidding plus proposal versus soliciting proposals. It depends on the amount of the project, whether it has to be put in a newspaper and competitively bid. Sometimes you can get 3 quotes on a smaller project, 3 verbal. Sometimes it takes 3 written. That doesn't really change any, and that's according to the state law. Of course, it all comes to you for approval. Emergency purchases, it talks about on page 65, and sole source purchases, like our water meters. The system that we use is one brand, and so when we decided to go with that brand some 10 years ago, we have to stick with that brand because it only is compatible with that. There's some things like that. If we have a radar gun, well, then you have to stay with that brand unless you're going to go to a whole new system. So some of them are sole source. However, sometimes there's multiple distributors of the same kind of an item. So talks about purchasing ethics. talks about, that's on page 66, on the fact that, it's not for personal gain and can't influence a public employee, and it's confidential information. And then credit card usage, on page 67. We don't use that a lot. It's just basically when someone goes out of town, they're issued a card. And, so it shows the policy there. And then, just things that are required by the state there. So that'll fix the comment that, it's more detailed and, more inclusive of everything.
Having the auditor come in and give recommendations to provide more due diligence in regards to some of the policies that we have in place, I think that's always a good thing. And being able to do something like this is just basically, brushing up some of the areas that probably need some updating, and I think that's a good idea.
All of these things, I think we mentioned it last time, were in practice already, but some of them weren't written down.
They weren't written in the
Written
book.
down.
Well, I'm always for improving policy, so that's a no-brainer. Does any of the council have any comments or questions about this updating of the purchasing policy? If not, if there's a motion to be made?
I think we're doing a good job handling money, so I think if we continue doing the best practice, it would even be better for us. So I make a motion to go ahead and approve that.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Macias
I second that motion.
and seconded by Commissioner Munoz. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 6, consideration and action to approve responses to the auditor's recommendations. Is this in regards to the previous?
Yes, one of them is the purchasing policy, but there were several, if you'll remember at the end. They weren't findings, they weren't anything that's wrong, but it's just things that we can tighten it up a little bit. And so I'm gonna go over each one, because I think they're real important that you know what it is, so that it really wasn't an issue. Like the first one, during capital asset testing, it was noticed that there was a backhoe recorded as a current year additions in both general ledger and the water fund. They're very separate types of businesses. In the general fund, we do a capital expense like a backhoe, and you expense the whole thing in that year. On the water and sewer fund, it's a business type activity fund, and so you depreciate it. And so even though that backhoe, let's say it cost $100,000, because we use it, some in the general fund for streets and drainage and stuff, some in the water and sewer, so we pay for it half out of the general fund, and so that's expensed all, $50,000. The other $50,000 of that backhoe, it wasn't that, but I'm using that as a figure. The other $50,000 has to be depreciated over the life of that backhoe. Does that make sense? And so all this does is sets a procedure to do those better. The only problem was the general fund and then the water and sewer. And the other issue was that backhoe was back ordered, and so it was approved by the council to purchase it in August. Well, it didn't come in until December. Well, we've started a new year, and so that was the comment and the reason for the concern. This tightens that up to where it expenses it where it needs to, depreciates it where it needs to, and in the proper year as well.
Just cleaner accounting, is that pretty much it? Cleaner
Correct.
accounting.
The next one is health insurance liabilities. For the first time, they had us go back years and years. I think it was like 10 years is what it required. And each year there's a cents off in each of these accounts. Well, when you do 10 years, there was more than that. And so they say we need to have a policy in order to do that. Now that we accrued all of those and fixed all those from years past, we're not going to have it, but we still have to have a policy to do it. So that's what the second one does. The second one was accrued interest. And it says we weren't putting that accrued interest in the proper month. And it's just an accounting procedure. The interest we accrue in February was actually happened in January, if that makes sense. And so we just showed it as an expense in February. Well, they earn it. They want us to show it in January and so accrue it in the month that it actually occurred instead of the month that it was realized.
And how do you do that, through forecasting? Do you forecast kind of what that number will be?
Right, and then you have to go make an entry to fix that.
Like an offset, like a small offset, instead of making the whole thing? Okay.
We already do that with like sales tax receipts, because we receive sales tax 2 months late and we go back and show it in the proper month. So interest wasn't substantial, if you'll recall. Interest for a whole year was $10,000.
Yeah.
It's becoming more of a critical now that interest rates are up.
Gone up.
We're already realizing $50,000 and $60,000, and so that number is becoming
It's more of a headache to
more
having to
of an
go to
issue.
adjust.
So they wanted us to accrue it that way, so we're doing it.
So making smaller adjustments instead of bigger adjustments.
Correct. The next one is retainage payable, and this is for any large contract we have, like the water plant. When it's a $3 million project, each time the contractor submits an invoice, engineer, of course, reviews it for accuracy and be sure, verifies that it's done. Our staff verifies that it's done, and say it's $1,000, that invoice. Well, we hold back 5% of that $1,000, so that would be $50. And we hold that till the end of the project to assure that that contractor doesn't walk off because he still wants that $50, because it accumulates through the months and through the pay apps. That 5% over a $2 million project is $100,000.
Yeah, it's
Is that right?
quite a bit of money.
Substantial amount. So what we do on a normal basis is we don't even look at that 5% that's out there until the end, because we feel like it hasn't been expensed because he hasn't finished the project. The auditor, it's a new auditor that that's using this year, feels like that expense needs to be accrued now rather than at the end of the project. And so it's just an accounting procedure. I personally liked it being accrued at the end, but
He wants to be more realistic.
they want us
yeah.
to show it whenever
When
that
it's happening.
invoice is done. Even though we don't pay it out, we show it as a liability during that time.
So it's just kind of like an opinion in a sense, but
Correct.
it's a little bit more of an accurate, instead of waiting the whole year to see that number.
So this is a procedure now to do that, and we'll do that on each one as we go. The next one is back to the backhoe with capital assets. Anything over $5,000 becomes a capital asset for depreciation schedule in the water and sewer. On the general fund, it doesn't, but it still becomes a capital asset to go to our asset ledger, even though we expensed it all during that year, if that makes sense. So this is just a comment that it should not, if it's accrued, it should not be expensed all at once in the water and sewer. And so this is a procedure to make that happen. The next one is, again, about depreciation. Those capital outlay accounts weren't reconciled with the depreciation schedule, and so they didn't match exactly. They were close because of the way we did it. Now it'll match up exact with the new policy. The next one is the purchasing policy. The city does not have a formal written policy over federal awards, which is purchasing And so that's one you just approved. And the last one is two fund balances were not accurately stated and required an adjustment. It was just one was put in the wrong place, so it made two of them off. He has a policy now that they do every month to verify those figures to be sure that they're accurate. And so we've addressed all of those, and like I say, none of them are major. They're just
Just small
little
little,
things that we can do to tighten it up a little bit and follow what their recommendations are.
well, you always want to make your auditors happy. So,
Yeah.
you know, even if it's little things like that. So, you know, again, anything having to do with tightening our policies to be better, I've got no problem with that as well. I don't know if any of the board has any questions about this action item? Now that there's a motion to be made? I'll go ahead and motion to approve the auditor's recommendations.
Go ahead and second that, Mayor.
So motion has been made by Mayor Flores and seconded by Commissioner Macias. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to action item number 7. Consideration and action to schedule a date and time to recognize telecommunication officers, police officers, public works employees, and EMS employees, and plan as appropriate. Mark, is this something like that time we had that law enforcement day, but this is to include a little bit bigger realm?
Yes, sir. Just so that we cover everybody and don't leave some of them out or leave you guys out. We thought we would propose, and I've got the dates there, and it's just because it happens on those dates. Telecommunication Officer Week is this week. So we would do it the 13th. At 8:30, we just meet over there at the PD and say thank you and have some juice, water, sweet bread.
I would like everybody to be out there, the council, if they can all make it out to this event and give thanks to these individuals. I know that, I don't know what our turnover is like with the telecommunications, but I know it's a very difficult job, and sometimes I don't even think they're paid enough for all the calls that they have to make a quick response on. So I'm all for something like this. I don't know about anybody here on the council, but I think it sounds great.
I think it's a good thing to do. I think we should even go, maybe, I don't know if we can get them something as appreciation from the city during this time.
That'd be nice, like a plaque or
Small
something.
token of appreciation.
I don't know how many employees there are, that's the only thing, so maybe if it's like a general per department, I don't know if that's something maybe more feasible. Or maybe something, even if it's lunch, you know, or something, a kind gesture that we can do on behalf of the city. If we come up with some ideas, something we can do to recognize them. I know we're doing the snacks and the drinks, right, but maybe a little extra something.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is something that we had been discussing about, you know, we need to, you know, pat them in the back once in a while whenever they go over 5 years or 10 years. So this is something that is recommended. I like the idea too.
How about an extra $1 an hour for their pay? Is this something we can always talk about at the next budget, huh? Next budget meeting. Public Works, Public Works is basically everybody that works out there right on the field. Is that what that refers to? All those individuals, yeah. Okay, yeah. And coming from, we have 2 law enforcement people on our board here today, so I know they know how important this is. So, if anybody wants to make a motion, any of my law enforcement folks,
I make a motion to consider for the action schedule dates and times to recognize technology officers, police officers, and employees EMS. I make a motion that we approve.
motion has been made by Commissioner Munoz
I'll go ahead and second that.
and seconded by Commissioner Macias. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye, and all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. Moving on to acknowledgement of city managers' reports. There's a few items on his report. If anybody has any particular questions to any of those, or Mark, if there's any updates that you want to give us on anything in particular, especially Highway 100, I don't know when they're gonna finish that little middle part right there by the railroad tracks, but it's time we put that to rest.
Mark, I have a question, Mark. Did we ever get to fix that pipe that's over here behind where Ramiro Sanchez is, the road that goes into the ranch? The one that had collapsed, remember you said that hose had collapsed?
Yeah, it's several years ago.
You don't have anything on plans to fix that hole? I mean, put a pipe there or no?
No, it's not even in the city limits. I know there's a problem with some individuals gaining access. I've turned that to county. It's a county issue and a drainage drainage district issue. Don't know what they're gonna
Okay,
do.
that's fine. If you have a chance, can you ask the water district if they can do something about it?
I have, and they've both said it's not their responsibility.
Nothing to do with it, eh?
Mark, have you gotten any updates on Highway 100? Have they told you anything about that center part, if it's gonna finish soon, or?
Nope, they originally said March, April, March for the inside work, April the outside work, and May finish. We're already getting close to middle of April, and they haven't finished the inside, so I'm not excited about it being done in May, so.
Well, at least they got 90% complete, so, you know, for the most part, but it's an eyesore already. I think we've been going through this for too long already. Oh, yeah, the dips, yeah. Any updates on bids, Mark? I know you sent out for some bids. Last time we talked about some drainage and road repairs, and we were trying to get pricing. Is that still basically same? We're still getting bids and prices?
I'm not sure what,
I thought we talked about, we were gonna approve to go out and get bids for, you know, like, I think it was 10th Street and 5th Street and all those drainage things. Am I mistaken? We're gonna start that as soon as this project finished. We were gonna work on all the much needed road repairs and,
we approved the street project.
for bids, right?
Mr. Peterson came last time, and
Okay.
so it's in his court to whether he's going to accept that bid.
Oh,
or not.
okay, so we're still waiting, pending on this accepting, okay, no
But
problem.
it's already been bid.
Yeah, so,
Yes.
no, okay. So just waiting on that.
Hey, Mark, how about the auction? I know we had an auction. How did that go? We already had it, right? The auction that we had approved. Remember I had put that old motorcycle in the auction?
Oh, yes, that auction. They're done.
How did that go? Did it sell this time or?
It didn't sell, so we're just going to just dispose of it. Nobody wants it. Yeah, sell it for scrap.
Mark, the hike and bike trail, have you heard any updates on that, on the continuation and connecting it to Los Fresnos? I've seen people ride on the side of the road quite a bit. Like in the evenings, it's kind of dangerous, you know, they'll finish in Brownsville and come this way, and they're riding their bikes on the side, or running.
Yeah, that's, actually, that's the dedicated trail, the edge of the roadway.
Wow,
It's not a
okay.
good dedication to it.
Yeah.
The hike and bike trail from just south of the drainage ditch to there by Alvarez Court will connect probably within a year. Same with our sidewalk going from, I believe it's First Street, all the way to Resaca Retreat. I was in a meeting this morning, and they said both those projects are the next two out. So that's good news for both of those. Because then people can be off of that roadway. I wouldn't,
It's dangerous, I've seen them at night, you know, and it's not,
You're
there
going
can be a big
60.
accident there.
people going 60+ miles an hour.
Yep. And they hug the shoulder a little bit, and, you know, you never know what can happen.
You still have a actual date for the Highway 100 to get done?
Excuse me?
Do you have have they given you an actual date for the Highway 100 for this year?
Yeah, we just talked about that. They had May, but it's not even close. All right, if there's any other questions, if not, if there's a motion to be made on the city manager's reports?
Make a motion, we accept the city manager's report.
Okay, motion has been made by Commissioner Vincent. And I'll go ahead and second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. At this time, we'll be acknowledging of the department head reports. If there's any report there from 1 through, 7? If not, if there's a motion to be made. Mark, about 2 days ago, on regards to the police department, there was an individual that reached out to me that said she heard about 7 or 8 gunshots in the Valle Alto area. Is there any news to that, or is there anything that you heard about that?
Nothing that I'm aware of.
It was Valle Alto. Had a resident reach out and tell me she heard 7 gunshots in the air. I believe it was either Saturday night or Sunday night, and that was in Valle Alto subdivision. So if you're going on, Canal, kind of like in that little intercept to take you towards Whipple Road, right in that subdivision. So, when I heard it was 7 gunshots, I kind of got a little concerned, but I was just wondering, based on the reports here, if there was any kind of call for anything like that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Any questions, or at this time, if there's a motion to be made? I'll go ahead and motion to acknowledge the department head reports.
I second that motion.
And it's been seconded by Commissioner Munoz. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Aye. And all those who oppose do the same. Motion carries. At this time, it's 7:08. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Meeting adjourned.